Today, we are fortunate enough to interview none other than Yotam Segev, co-founder and CEO of Cyera. Their AI-powered platform empowers organizations to discover, secure, and leverage their data. Cyera is the fastest growing data security company in history and one of the top 5 fastest growing tech company of all time. In just 2 years alone, Cyera has grown revenue 26 times and increased their valuation 6x in 2024 alone. So, Yotam, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Yossi and Sanat.
Yeah, so Yotam, I thought to start by asking you, first of all, what led you to the tech world in the first place?
Oh, so my father was a software guy, and I think some kids learned how to play basketball from their dads. I learned how to code. So it was a family thing, and I think there was something about software for me that had the joy of creation in it. I had like the ability to make something come to life on your own was extremely exciting for me, and I was very, very, very enthusiastic and very passionate about coding up until I'd say from when I was about 10 to when I was 22. That was my chapter as a coder myself that I really loved it. Um, After that, I became more passionate about people and leading them.
Nice. And can you share with us also how the idea of Cyera came about? I know that you chose data security, DSPM, instead of maybe targeting an easier market space.
If I would have known about an easier marketplace back then, I would have definitely chose it. I thought that this was going to be one of the biggest problems the world has to deal with. I felt like it was a challenging problem, so our technological capabilities and the technological capabilities of the team that we could rally to the cause would make a big difference. As my co-founder used to say, if it's an easy problem, then it's not for us to solve. There's other people that would be better at it. We needed a hard problem. We believe that it was already 4 years ago when we started quite a daunting challenge, data security. But with the advent of AI, it's really become the top priority for every enterprise today to be able to understand what data they have, what data is going into these AI agents, and how are they protecting data while adopting AI and making the business move as fast as it can.
Yeah, definitely. And I know also that you kind of like pioneer the new space with DSPM. Can you share with us what were some of the challenges convincing, for example, CISO, that your product is the right solution to solve their problems?
Yeah, so I think in the early days when you're starting a startup, the product is very narrow. So our first product in the market was DSPM for AWS only. Now, it took us about 50 customer meetings to get to a customer that had the problem in AWS in a meaningful enough way to even consider the solution. Most customers were like, if you only take care of AWS right now, talk to us later when you have something broader. But luckily for us, and this is something we definitely did not know at the time, but only in hindsight, there were some customers that had the problem in AWS in a big enough and painful enough way that they were willing to take a chance on us when we were a very early stage company. They were willing to buy a very early stage product from us because the problem was so painful to them. Many other customers were not in that position, but there were some customers that really felt the pain in such a big way that they were willing to partner with us so early on. And those customers were companies that were born in AWS, and AWS represented the majority of their IT stack. It was companies that lifted and shifted in a very, very quick fashion into AWS. We were working with a big pharmaceutical company that pretty much one of the big fours just lifted the data centers, dumped them into AWS. The CISO became the head of the data governance council. And, we at that time, we met with them and we're like, we can make magic happen for you for your data in AWS. They're like, that's exactly what we need. So, that's how things got started in the early days. And as the product became a platform, became much broader, much more widely applicable, then it became more relevant to many more customers.
Nice. And you mentioned all of the work with AWS at the beginning. So how was the shift from being the primary salesperson as the founder of the company to building actually a dedicated sales team? Did it feel you kind of like losing some of the control of your company?
So I still think about myself as the primary salesperson for the company, and I hope I don't lose that anytime soon. I think that in enterprise software, in top market enterprise software, the founders, the CEO, play a very very big part in building the trust and articulating the business case for the customers and partnering with the customers. Today, our sales team is almost 100 sellers, so it's quite a significant team. And I spend the majority of my time with the customers and with the sales team, learning about the customers' challenges, explaining where we can help and where we can't help yet. And really, that's the feedback that I bring back to the company and to the product organization in order to continue to cultivate the roadmap and our continued development.
Nice. And can you share with us maybe a story about your first customer that you engaged with in Cyera?
No customer can know that they're the first customer in cybersecurity. It's a very dangerous position to be. Yeah, but I think to share some stories from the early customers. So there was a public company we were working with. There was an AWS shop, and they just went through a process of manually certifying all of the S3 buckets, checking one by one to validate that there's no sensitive data there and that the buckets are configured appropriately. And they had hundreds of them, right? It wasn't an easy task. And we met them, and they were like, "Sure, we just checked everything. Everything is looking good, but maybe run your software and see what you can find." And when we were prepping for that, we discussed with them, okay, what would be a worrying scenario? What could we show you there? What could we find there that would prompt you to take action, to change something about the way you're keeping data? And they talked about some of the information that was concerning to them, that was mostly agreements with their customers, commercial agreements with their customers and how they were keeping them. And crazy enough, we found that they had massive amounts of those agreements that were on these S3 buckets publicly accessible on the internet. So anyone with the right URL could literally just download these agreements online. You didn't have to go through any authentication or any type of security control. And they saw that, they fixed it very quickly. It was amazing to see how quickly they acted on it, and that's how we knew it was really important. And they partnered with us, and they gave us a chance to work with them and grow our offering into the platform that it is today.
Amazing. And I mean, after all, we are also MBA students, and we learn a lot about the go-to-market strategy. And we thought actually there is no better man to elaborate and explain, in your case, how is your go-to-market strategy evolved over time? Because at the end of the day, you're growing super fast. So
I think that our go-to-market strategy in general is actually quite simple, right? Like it's not so innovative. We're an enterprise software top market company. We look to support the biggest enterprises in their data security journey. Um, Obviously, there's a land and expand motion to it, which means that we can start working with a customer over a specific part of their environment, over a specific issue, and gradually get their buy-in as they see the results and as they see the success, to expand the deployment, to broaden the deployment to other parts of the environment and to the broader enterprise. And I think for us, we've always viewed the customers as the most important part of the engagement. So time with a customer is something extremely valuable. You should come prepared. You should come attentive. You should be able to listen and understand that when you're selling to big enterprises, there's no one-trick pony, right? Like every enterprise has its unique complexities, has its unique needs, it has its unique regulatory landscape, and we don't try to explain to the customers the problem they have. We try to listen to the problems that they have and how they're thinking about them, and then position ourselves in the ways that we could potentially help them solve those problems or some of those problems, and be very, very honest about where we can and where we can't, what our product and our platform does amazingly well today, what we're investing in for tomorrow, and making sure that we have a strategic alignment on how they see this topic expanding for them, and that they like what we can deliver today and are excited by it. But they also understand that, in this year, in 2025, there's going to be more man years of software development invested in the Cyera platform than the accumulated 4 years before. Because that's what it means when you're growing very fast, that you're able to invest in the product in very, very significant ways every year. And I hope that in 2026, we'll invest more than the 5 years before that. So that's allowing us to continue to move, continue to innovate, and really stay at the cutting edge of what the market needs.
And you mentioned to invest in order to still keep being innovative while scaling fast. So I was just wondering if you can elaborate. I mean, at the end of the day, Cyera did a two big fundraising round last year. And when is the right time for entrepreneur, not specifically even Cyera, to raise money and engage with VC?
Depends. There's no. I don't think there's like one tip that will strike home for everybody. We were very lucky to partner with CyberStarts, our seed investors, very early on in the journey. Before we had a set path that we wanted to operate on, and together with them, we've really grown the company into what it is today. Many other great investors like Sequoia Capital, Accel, Redpoint, Cotu, Georgian, Spark, Sapphire have joined us along the path. Even some of our customers invested in us, like AT&T Ventures. And but I think that the first engagement with investors, in my mind, the most important thing is the team and the determination, right? Sometimes people are hesitant; they're not sure they want to really set sail on this journey. If you have the team and you know that this is the team you want to go change the world with, and you have the determination and you know that you're set on your path to do that, I think it's a great time to start to engage with investors. Obviously, the more proof points and the more milestones you achieve, the better your position is, and maybe the better valuation you can get. But investors are also partners, and sometimes very important partners in this journey. I think it's really important to find the right partners for you, people that you enjoy spending time with, that you enjoy learning from, that are going to challenge you for years and years to come, and that you wanna grow together with.
Yeah, amazing. And you mentioned also CyberStart. So one of our other speakers is actually, I think, also funded by CyberStart, Dan Amiga from Ireland, and we also had Wiz in the previous conference. So good company to be with. And you spoke about increasing your footprint and just like growing fast, and the team get bigger at the same time. So how do you maintain the cohesion of the team and specifically ensure that the company stay cohesive and maintain its culture while you're growing super fast?
That's a very big challenge for us and for other companies that are going through this type of growth. I think what works for us is, first of all, clarity, right? To be able to communicate in a clear way what's important to us, what's unique about this company and about working for this company, what it takes to succeed within this company, what we appreciate, what we tolerate, and what we don't. And being very, very true to those core values, and being able to state them in a way where others can understand what they're getting themselves into and what this company is. I always joke, I tell our employees in the first welcome to Cyera call that we don't have anything against work-life balance, it's a wonderful thing, and I'm sure that many people want it and want to live that way, but we just don't offer it, right? Like it's not something we have to offer. We're a company that's trying to, grow at a pace that is unprecedented. And people who work here work really, really hard. They work harder than most people. They spend more hours in their work. They don't do it because they have to. They do it because they're passionate about what they're doing and they're excited about what they're doing and they have the opportunity to do something extraordinary. But it is that type of workplace, right? Like it gets you engaged in ways that do not exactly align with many people's uh, perceptions today about work-life balance. So, it's important to be able to say that, right? Like this is our company. If you want work-life balance, that's a-okay. It's wonderful. Like I don't want to give you any illusions that you're gonna find it here, right? If you want to do the work of your lifetime, if you want to do something that's extraordinary, that you'll be proud of for many, many years to come, that is very competitive, you can find that here. But it's not going to be a very well balanced lifestyle for you. So I think that being able to be transparent about what this company is, what we are doing here, and what it feels like, what we expect from our people, and what we give our people is important, and it allows people to make their choices. Let's call it with open eyes, right? Know what they're getting themselves into. The second thing that we like to do is to spend time in person. So we live in this virtual world. Here we are on this Zoom call, meeting virtually. And the virtual world is amazing for walking. It allows us to be in so many places in the same day. That's crazy. But it doesn't necessarily, or at least for us, it hasn't been the easiest platform for cultural assimilation. And there's something about spending time in person together in different settings and experiencing each other in a more holistic way that really gets the cultural aspect moving much faster. And I think that we invest in that. We invest time and we invest resources, and we're very happy with the return.
Yeah, definitely, and very inspiring indeed. Seems like Cyera, at least from the news, is on the right track. So yeah, and maybe two questions for myself before we moving on to Senat. So first question is about the competitive landscape. I mean, after all, you came out of Israel, and there was like a bunch of other cool cyber company coming out of Israel as well. And just like in the last few years, we know about Wiz, Island, Armies, Blockade, and Upwind, and that have gained substantial traction. So, what is your perspective on the industry future? Do you foresee any major consolidation, or do you think still not specifically this company, but just in general, there's going to be substantial growth?
The market that we're operating in is growing at an incredible pace, right? And if we look at the Palo Alto Networks as a sample company, right, 5 years ago, Palo Alto Network stock was trading at $40 a share, and today it's almost at 200. So 5x growth in 5 years, and that's a company that's doing very, very well, but it's also representative of the market that we're operating in many senses. So if 5 years ago, a huge cybersecurity company was a $20 billion company, today, a big cybersecurity company is a $100 billion company. And that change happened very fast. By the way, I don't think it's over, right? Like, I don't think it's going to stop at 100 billion. I think we're going to see cybersecurity companies that are even bigger than that, and because there's a need. The world is digitizing at a super, super rapid pace. AI is coming into the equation now and, potentially changing how the workplace operates, potentially changing what employees mean in a company. And all of these challenges are amazing, amazing opportunities, but cyber is kind of the counterweight to them. And if we don't create a situation where cybersecurity is maintained at a high enough standard, then these innovations can turn out to be our downfall. I always tell my team that our mission is to support a world that is going to adopt AI, whether we support it from a security perspective or not, it's going to adopt AI. But to support the world in that adoption, to make sure that it's being done securely and responsibly, because I want to live in that world, right? Like, I don't want to live in a world where AI has gone rogue. I don't want to live in a world where I can't trust the enterprises, the institutions that compose our day-to-day, that compose our lives, our banks, our healthcare providers, our insurers. I want to be able to trust in the world. But that trust doesn't come lightly. It requires effort, it requires investments, and it requires responsibility. And I think that that's where we play. That's where the cybersecurity industry plays, and we have the opportunity to support one of the biggest revolutions of the world. Right, the AI is poised to be potentially bigger than the industrial revolution. So supporting that from a security perspective and enabling organizations to undergo that transformation rapidly but responsibly, that's the market for that is huge. So when I look at competition, I don't. The competition in cyber is very fierce. Right? Like there's a lot of fast-moving players, and if there's a dollar out there to be had, there's many hands reaching out for it. That's for sure. But at the same time, we're all here to serve a greater purpose, a greater goal, which is to really enable society to innovate, and continue to innovate securely. And in that sense, there's also a huge opportunity to partner, complement each other, and find the best way to serve our customers, which are some of the biggest enterprises and biggest brands that we all rely on.
Yeah, super interesting. And one last question for myself before we moving on to Senat. Maybe the most interesting one for me is that I heard that you played Dungeons and Dragon in your kibbutz, and I was just wondering. I mean, I guess it was super cool, but how specifically the skills that you developed there help you maybe in business, and especially when strategically dealing with sophisticated clients or competitors to deal with.
Yossi, I don't know where you're getting your intelligence, but it is too accurate and too dangerous for me. So uh, for me, I don't know. Dungeons and Dragons was my first job. I my parents, when I was in ninth grade, my parents told me that I'm a little too spoiled and I need to go get a job. So I lived in a small village, a small town in Israel. I started doing backyards, cleaning cars, but I wasn't very excited about the profit margins and the ability to really build a business there. And I was playing Dungeons and Dragons as a hobby before that, and I started a Dungeons and Dragons class in the village for the sixth graders. Then the eighth graders came to me and told me, "Why only for the sixth graders? What about us?" So I started another class for the eighth graders, and I continued with both of those classes for 3 years. That was my first job. It paid for my first car. I had an ATV, a quad. That was my first vehicle, so it allowed me to finance that, and it got me through the military on my own finances through the years of mandatory service. So it was a great job, and I think the skills that I acquired there were mostly about, the let's call it the first one is, it sounds really simple, but it's where I think most people struggle, is showing up. Uh, as a teenager myself, with a lot of academic duties and a lot of extracurricular activities, I had twice a week and an afternoon that I was responsible to show up and give the best show in town for these kids. And you have to do it, whether you have a big test tomorrow, whether you're feeling down, whether you're feeling sick, doesn't matter. It's your show and you gotta show up. Yeah, that was the first thing. The second thing, I think, was to stand in front of an audience and be able to capture the audience's attention. Yeah. Dungeons and Dragons is the land of fantasy, and all things are all narratives and all tales are welcomed, but it's all about getting the interest, getting the people to lean in, to be excited about what's happening, and you do that without any visual aids, without any presentations, without it's all about a good story, and I think that was definitely a useful skill to learn.
Yeah, amazing. And I bet it will serve you well in the future as well. So without further ado, Senat has also a great question for you. So Senat, the floor is yours.
Yeah, hey Yotam. So just, going deeper into market trends, you might have touched upon this already, but do you think the rise of AI will make the data security management more complicated, especially with the AI agents and an explosion of available information? How do you see this trend, or do you think it's gonna, simplify the industry?
I think it's going to make it very complicated. I think it already is making it very complicated. Look, cybersecurity, the foundations are pretty well known. And if you execute well on the foundations, then you can succeed in adapting to these types of challenges. The problem is that succeeding in the foundation is not that easy. So when we started in the DSPM space, I think our narrative was, look, in data security, people jumped to protection and controls with DLP, but we never actually had an inventory of the sensitive data we want to protect. And an inventory is the first step in every security program that we've ever built. So that was where we started. So I think we know how to approach these types of problems as an industry, but we just have to make the right investments and the right effort to lay the appropriate foundations and build on top of them. So data security, I believe that enterprises will be able to deal with the challenge that is facing them, but they have to decide that they want to.
And then, on that, how's Sierra integrating AI into its products? Do you see, that roadmap, growing in terms of AI products?
Yes, I think, some of that, there's let's call it a commercial external AI products. There's also internal AI products for these big enterprises. So some of their biggest challenges are not in how to protect from data leaking into ChatGPT. That is a pretty classic and standard use case. Some of the bigger challenges is how to put the real data into an internal LLM engine and maintain some semblance of control about who can see what data in the organization. Some of these enterprises that we serve have 500,000 employees. So it's not only about protecting the data from going outside, it's also being able to manage the data access governance internally. And you want to maximize the value, so you want to put the real data into the engines, but you also want to protect against malicious abuse. And that's where the challenges are happening. So we're seeing a lot of energy and a lot of initiatives around this space, and we're fortunate to be in a position to support our customers in their AI security journey. Or I think more than AI security, we look at it as secure AI enablement, secure AI adoption. Right? Because the AI adoption is happening in either way, right? Like nobody's going to be stopping the AI adoption due to security concerns. It's moving as fast as the business is pushing, and security is used to playing catch up in a sense. And this is an opportunity to not fall behind, but find a way to keep up with the business.
Nice. And like moving more into the personal insights, I know you started companies from zero without an accelerator or prior entrepreneurial experience, yet you've achieved, immense success. And so what do you think were the key factors behind Sierra's success?
First of all, I think Cyera is just starting to succeed. Right? Like it's we're not even in our second chapter in my mind. So I believe that Cyera will continue to grow for many, many years to come, and that we have a much bigger impact to bring to the market than what we've done so far. It's a great start, and we're very happy about it, but it's only the start for us. I think that what's allowed us to be in this position is to focus on the core fundamentals again in a very almost, I would say, almost religious manner, right? What is the pain that we are trying to solve? Articulating that pain precisely, right? There's many variations of that pain, many permutations. You can take it half an inch left, you can take it half an inch right, you can turn it on its head, you can turn it a bit here, a bit there. Getting it, the precision matters a lot. And it's not out of our own intelligence, it's out of continuously validating with the market exactly that, right? Okay, there's many problems in data security. There's many challenges in protecting data from AI. There's many things that you're dealing with as a CISO around what we do. But if we had to stick a tiny, tiny needle in just one thing, what is the most precise definition of that one thing? And if you have the answer to that, if you find an answer to that, and you've managed to validate it continuously with the market, then you can build software to help it. But you have to make sure that you're building the platform to solve for exactly the use case that is the most painful and the most urgent for your customers, because there's so many things around it that they also care about, right? So finding that and articulating that and continuing to focus the company around that is very, very important. That's one thing that has served us really, really well. I think the other thing that has served us really well is the ability to believe. But when we started, it wasn't that easy to believe that Cyera would be where it is today. You have to believe in your ability to execute. You have to believe in the team's ability to execute. You have to believe in how big this problem is in the market. And that belief gets validated gradually. But in the early days, you have to believe. There's not that many proof points and not that many data points that you can rely on. You have to be able to really believe that this is something that is worth dedicating the next 10, 20 years of your life to, because that's how long it's going to take.
Of course, that's very interesting. And in terms of entrepreneurship, would you recommend that aspiring entrepreneurships, start working on YC or Techstars, or do you think they should just start on their own, incubators versus starting off on their own?
I don't think there's any clear recommendation in that regard. Everybody's got to do what they feel comfortable doing. But I think that if you choose to go down the path of entrepreneurship, dealing with the fact that you don't know is going to become a very regular exercise. Right? Like it's not very few people know how to build a company like this, and I've done it multiple times, and all of them had the first time as well. So you have to embrace the fact that there's many, many things that you don't know and you don't have all the answers, and you have to learn how to operate in that type of environment and that type of reality. If it freaks you out, right, like then you might not be in the right place. If you enjoy it, if it's thrilling to you, if it's exciting to you, if it's something that gets you energized, then I think you should approach it. But
Makes sense.
yeah, but it's not, I don't think it's better or worse than other alternatives. I think it's just what that type of journey looks like.
Yeah, yeah. And then, coming back to Cyera, you mentioned Cyera is, growing rapidly. How do you, and you kind of mentioned this already, but how do you prioritize your time? Do investors take up more of your focus now, or is it still more product development? Is it customer relationships? I know you mentioned, working very closely with sales, but what about the other facets as well? We'd love to learn.
In general, a company like ours does two things. We're building a product and we're selling a product. Those are the two main things that the company does in the world, and I try to have my time allocated around that. The third thing that is crucial is recruiting people, bringing the best people, bringing the next level of leadership into the company at every stage of the growth. So that's another area where I spend significant time and appreciate it. But generally, I try to focus on those things, and me specifically, I'm more on the sell the product side. My co-founder, our CTO, is more on the build the product side of the house, and is leading that effort for us. Obviously, we talk about 2 hours a day, right? Like we're synced almost telepathically. He's in the desert in Israel now, hasn't picked up the phone for 3 hours. I'm freaking out. I'm starting to sweat here. So that's how we operate.
Very nice. Uh, moving on to, more personal questions, like, any advice for entrepreneurs who are starting off? like any young entrepreneurs? Like what advice would you give them today, if they're starting out today in today's world?
Maybe a bit of like personal advice, right? Less business oriented, but more about life. So I think there's sometimes this narrative that people like to use with their families, that they're doing it for their family, in order to provide their family, in order to take care of their family. I don't know exactly what, but I'm a big contender to that narrative. I think that narrative is very hurtful to many entrepreneurs and many families, because if you can make this thing work, if you can make a company appear in the world and succeed in the world, you can probably make a living in many other ways as well. And I'm not sure that it's ideal for the family that you'll be doing it this way. So I think sometimes it's important for people to create some clarity for themselves and their loved ones, that they're doing this because they, of whatever reason that it is that is driving them to it. But it's not always as nice as it sounds that you're doing it for your family. I'm not sure that's really the driver for many people. I think that being able to understand that early on and be able to be very honest about what's driving you to your loved ones and to your team can make a big difference in people's ability to buy in and in people's ability to support you in that.
Yeah, makes sense. And then, is there a mentor that, you have, you look up to?
There's so many. I think for me, the ability to learn from others has always, like it's been one of my biggest focus areas throughout this journey, to continuously to challenge myself and bring new perspectives and ambitious perspectives to push me and my co-founder and the team forward. Um, there's many people that I look to and I've learned a ton from, as operators, as investors, as customers. A lot of my mentors are actually my customers. Uh, CISOs of big enterprises, they're very experienced managers, they're very experienced leaders that have seen, they have such a rich and broad perspective on the market and industry that we operate in. Some of them have been doing cybersecurity for longer than I'm alive. So, when you get access to those people, for me, it's important to find a way to turn them into mentors and make sure that I'm learning everything that they have to teach me about the industry, what has worked, what hasn't worked, why have we approached things in a certain way, what works in the big enterprise, how do we get technology well implemented, how does that technology show value for years and years to come. So, there's always new challenges when you're building a company like this, and the people who actually know most sometimes are the people around you.
Yeah. And then, outside work, what are your hobbies? I know you mentioned Dungeons and Dragons back in the ninth grade. Any hobbies right now?
These days, I'm very big on kayaking. I like that, and I can also talk on the phone with the AirPods while I'm doing it. So it's a wonderful combination. I think I'm doing a light exercise. I'm outdoors, but I'm also still running. The machine is still running, so that's great for me. And I have two young kids, a 3.5-year-old and a 3-week-old, and spending time with them and with my wife Noah is the biggest pleasure for me on the weekends and sometimes during the weekdays as well.
It's very nice. So, I guess maybe not too much time for movies. But what's your favorite movie?
Uh, wow, favorite movie, like all-time favorite movie?
Sure.
Lord of the Rings. The first one was high up there. The Matrix was high up there. Gladiator 1 was a great movie.
Very interesting. It was very nice, learning, about your story. I'm gonna hand it back over to Yossi right now. Yossi.
Yeah, so Yotam, thank you very much again. My favorite movie is also the second Matrix. Actually, I like it very much. We've started like Neo, and actually, my first dog was called Neo. So just like as a small fun fact. So Yotam, thank you very much for joining us today. We are super appreciate you answering my cold email back then. We learned a lot from you. And we are very fortunate to have you here. And for everybody else that listening to this call, so stay tuned for our next few episodes. We have the chairman of Wix, Mark, and the founder of Island, Payoneer, AppsFlyer, and Gong, and a bunch of other schools, companies showcasing Israeli innovation here. So Yotam, thank you very much again.
Thank you, Yossi. Thank you, Sanat. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. See you soon.